In these clips, we see how World War II sea mines were neutralized by either minesweeping or gunfire. In this channel's video discussing World War II submarine small arms, we showed how submarine crews used their M1 carbines and Bofors 40mm guns to detonate or sink sea mines. Sea mines were the second leading cause of U.S. submarine losses and the second leading cause of ship sinkings during the Okinawan campaign. Given their significance to the war effort, I thought a deep dive video on these weapon systems would be interesting. This video expands on the topics covered in the channel's Operation Starvation video. The intent of this video is to review the advantages of World War II sea mines, how they were deployed, how they work, the 4 types of mine triggers, how to tell if a ship was struck by a mine or torpedo, and their combat effectiveness. At the end of this video, I'll show a U.S. Navy-produced sea mine video. This page from a 1962 Naval Ordnance Laboratory document on U.S. Navy sea mines outlines the purpose and advantages of sea mines. One purpose of sea mines is to sink and damage ships. Their combat effectiveness can be measured by the number of ships sunk per mines deployed. This value decreased from 71 mines per ship sunk or damaged beyond repair in World War I to a World War II value of 37, as defined in this 1975 Naval Surface Weapons Center document on mine warfare history. The combat effectiveness of sea mines almost doubled from World War I to World War II. This measure of a mine's combat effectiveness is its least value to the war effort. One of the values of sea mines, like landmines and barrage balloons, is to force the enemy to expend resources in their defeat. German magnetic mines forced the Allies to adopt ship degaussing countermeasures, which cost billions of dollars to implement. Japan was forced to divert its limited resources to fight the Allied mine home water seeding program. Sinking Allied ships is only half the value of sea mines, as discussed on this page from a 1953 Navy document on naval ordnance in World War II. The indirect effects include diversion of resources for minefield countermeasures, restricts sea traffic until the minefield has been rendered safe, and forces sea traffic to deeper waters where they are more vulnerable to air, surface, and submarine attack. A sea mine threat also reduces ship crew morale. Additional battlefield impacts on mines are discussed on this page from a 1992 Maxwell Air Force Base document on mine laying during World War II. During the U.S. Civil War, Russian-Japanese War, and World War I, more ships were sunk by mines than gunfire or torpedoes. Most of the mines laid during World War II were defensive mines. Defensive mines were used to protect your own harbors and waterways from enemy ships, and offensive mines were used in your enemy's waterways. In addition to blocking the enemy and sinking ships, they shrunk the size of the naval battlefield. Mines are low-cost, 24 hours on duty, all-weather, independent weapons, which freed naval ships to perform more important duties, and mines were of minimal risk to friendly fleets. A minefield achieves its goal by its perceived threat, as discussed on this page from a 1982 Psychological Aspects of Mine Warfare document. The effect of a minefield is it increases the fear of a ship's crew. It works more on a sailor's mind than it affects a ship. They can be considered a psychological warhead. This page provides an example where a minefield helped in the destruction of 23 Japanese ships. On March 30, 1944, carrier aircraft seeded the harbor in Palau. 32 Japanese ships were in the harbor and upon discovery should have left the harbor, but because of the newly laid minefield chose to stay. The ships presented a concentrated target for the carrier planes that attacked. 23 ships of the 32 were sunk. Additional mines were dropped in the harbor. Palau was abandoned as a naval base. This mining effort would not be credited with any assisted kills. Many of these types of mining efforts go unrecognized. This page from a 1992 Maxwell Air Force Base document on mine laying during World War II outlines how sea mines work. They can be delivered by ship, submarines, or planes. Ships carry a lot of mines and can seed a large area accurately. 2/3 of all defensive mines were deployed from ships. Submarines can populate a minefield if in deep water. They can seed a field secretly. A drawback to submarines as a delivery system is they can only carry a limited quantity of mines, which will limit their torpedo inventory, and they are exposed to the deployed mines. Planes have the advantage of speed, range, and flexibility. They can also return to increase or expand the minefield or replenish a hostile area if needed. B-29 seeded Japanese waterways with 12,053 mines, dropping around 12 1,000-pound size sea mines per plane, at an average round-trip distance of 2,870 nautical miles from a 1973 Naval Ordnance document on sea mines against Japan. This page from a 1944 Navy document on mine warfare describes mine classification based on position in the sea. A ground mine, seen here, lies on the seafloor. These were developed during World War II and can be laid by aircraft, ships, or submarines. To be effective, they need to be laid in shallow water. Drifting mines, shown here, are not tethered to the seafloor and drift with the currents. A retreating ship may drop these to stop or slow a pursuing ship. Drifting mines must have a self-destruct feature. These are the least common. Moored mines, variations seen here, are attached to the seafloor by a cable and a bulky anchor system. These mines can rest on the surface or slightly subsurface. They can be deployed in deep water. These were the most common mines in World War II. Mines are also classified by their triggering system. Contact mines, the most common, require physical contact between the ship and mine. Influence mines will detonate by the ship's influence on the mine sensor. The mine sensor is either magnetic, most popular, acoustic, or pressure. Control mines will detonate by a shore-based remote control system. This page describes how a contact mine works. A ship must come in contact with the mine for it to detonate. Moored or drifting mines are almost always contact mines. When a ship contacts the mine's horn, shown here, it bends or breaks the horn, shown here, which breaks a glass vial containing a fluid solution. The conductive solution completes the mine's electric circuit, which detonates the mine. A controlled defensive minefield is usually laid at a harbor entrance. The shore operator will allow passage of friendly ships, but will detonate the field when a hostile ship is within lethal range of the field. This graphic outlines the three types of influence mine triggers from a 1951 Popular Science magazine article. A mine's magnetic sensor is triggered by a passing iron ship's magnetic field disturbance. These were first developed by the Germans and were the most popular influence type mine sensors. The mine's acoustic sensor is triggered by a passing ship's noise. A ship emits noise from its engines, propellers, and water disturbance as it travels along the sea. The mine's acoustic diagram sensor will trigger the mine when a set noise level is reached. A mine's pressure sensor is triggered by a passing ship's pressure differential field. A passing ship will disturb the water below the ship. This creates a negative pressure field which a mine sensor can measure and detonate the mine when a set level is reached. This table summarizes the classification of mines based on mine trigger, vessel delivery type, location in water, and as offensive or defensive. Most World War II mines followed this path: contact, surface, moored, defensive, while Operation Starvation mines followed this path: influence type, aircraft, bottom, offensive. A typical controlled Japanese minefield is shown on this sketch from a 1945 Japanese anti-submarine warfare document. The protected harbor will be populated with contact mines, a magnetic guard loop sensor, acoustic triggered mines, and a shore-controlled minefield. This map outlines both a defensive and offensive sea minefield from a 1944 Solomon Target Data and Minefield Map document. Defensive Japanese minefields are located in these shaded zones. U.S. submarines laid 22 offensive moored contact mines in this shaded zone. The solid circles represent individual Mark 12 offensive ground magnetic mines laid by an Allied aircraft. This page from a 1944 Mine Disposal Handbook outlines characteristics and a cutaway of the Mark 12-1 influence mine. It is fitted with a parachute when aircraft deployed. It is a ground sea mine effective against ships at water depths between 16 and 125 feet or 500 feet for submarines. It is 21 inches in diameter and 94 inches in length. Its total weight is 1,545 pounds when filled with 1,225 pounds of a Torpex compound explosive fill. The mine is armed 45 minutes after reaching a water depth of 15 feet. It is triggered by an iron ship's magnetic influence. It can also be set to detonate at a preset ship counter up to 10 ship triggers. This is done to trick minesweepers into declaring a field clean. The 6-foot diameter stowed parachute is located here, 1,225 pounds of Torpex here, extender, and clock starter. This map shows the location of U.S. defensive minefields laid in World War II. This map shows the location of both ship and plane-based minefields in the Pacific. This table lists the number of mines planted by the Allies in the Pacific by type. Observations of this chart include most U.S. Navy planted mines were defensive type contact mines. Since the mines were triggered by contact, they were Moore type. The most popular influence type mines were magnetically triggered. These Operation Starvation 12,135 mines sunk 283 ships for the loss of 15 B-29s. There was likely no better World War II return on investment than Operation Starvation results. The Hague Convention Articles of 1907 with regard to mines is on this page and summarized in this list from a 1996 mine warfare document. A drifting mine's service life is 1 hour. Broken, loose, moored mines must have a feature where they become unarmed. Mines must be harmless if they miss their target. This likely applies to torpedoes. Mines used to be called torpedoes, hence the 1864 phrase, "damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead." The Union admiral was describing a sea minefield. Mines should be directed at warships. Mines should not target neutral ships. Post-war mine cleanup rests on those who planted the mine. This table from a 1945 mine identification manual lists the mines deployed by the U.S., Germany, and Japan. The most common type ship-based U.S. mine is the Mark VI, and the most common type dropped by B-29s during Operation Starvation is the Mark 25. If a mine is found at sea, the warship should identify its type, position, and try to destroy the mine by gunfire from a 1943 mine identification manual. Best to use either 50 caliber or 20 millimeter armor-piercing rounds. Aim for the horns. Safe range is 300 yards or farther. This page represents characteristics and a view of the Mark VI mine system, the most common type U.S. mine deployed. The mine is moored, contact type, with a remote detonator and deployed by a ship. Water depth can vary between 40 and 2,800 feet. Targets are ships or submarines. The mine will rest between 15 to 320 feet below the surface. The mine's case diameter is 34 inches. Its weight is 495 pounds when filled with 300 pounds of TNT. It has 4 evenly spaced contact horns. The Mark VI mine is here, the Mark VI anchor box is here, lead plummet here, horns here, and D4 antenna contact trigger float here. This schematic describes a Mark VI contact moored mines planning sequence from a 1975 Naval Systems Weapons Center document on mine warfare history. The mine falls off the rear of a ship and settles for 10 seconds. The plummet starts descending and the mine and anchor separate. The anchor starts to descend as it's filling with water. Once the plummet strikes the sea bottom, down to 2,800 feet, the plummet cable stops paying out. Its paid-out length will be used to set the mine's depth below the water surface. The anchor will continue to sink until it contacts the bottom. The float trigger is paid out to the depth below the surface desired. The D4 antenna contact float is much smaller than the mine at 20 inches long and 10 inches in diameter. It is fitted with 3 or 4 contact horns depending on the model. The mine detonates if ship contact is made with the antenna float horns or the mine's horns. This table outlines the differences a ship will experience if struck by a ground-laid influence mine, surface contact mine, or torpedo. A ground mine detonating will sound dull and prolonged. A contact mine will be sharp and loud. A torpedo sounds like a surface mine, but may be muffled as it detonates inside the ship. No flames will be seen for a ground influence mine. Flames may be seen for a contact mine or torpedo. The splash created for a ground mine at a depth of 60 feet is 200 to 250 feet high. The splash is on both sides of the ship. A contact mine or torpedo splash is around 200 feet high and is on one side only. A floor mine will lift the ship. The crew will be thrown in the air. A contact mine or torpedo will throw the crew to the side. A ground detonating mine will stop the ship's engines and break the ship's back. Generally, no hull punctures. A ship sinks on an even keel. This image shows the massive damage expected from a ground mine lifting the ship and breaking its back. The damage from a contact mine or torpedo is on one side. The ship will list to one side. So how effective were sea mines in their role in sinking ships? This chart represents the cause of Japanese ships sunk from a 1947 Joint Army-Navy Committee document. Submarines accounted for 55% of ships sunk by weight, whereas mines accounted for 6.3% of ships sunk. Most of the ships sunk were merchant vessels. This tabular data table outlines the cause and agent, type, number, and weight of Japanese ships sunk in World War II. These rows represent mine losses. Key points of the table are: mines sunk 266 ships, 19 of these were warships, and 247 were merchant vessels. Most of the losses, 257 ships, occurred by mines laid by Army aircraft. Overall, 2 million tons of Japanese ships were sunk or damaged by mines from a 1947 USSBS document on the offensive mining campaign against Japan. This includes 2 battleships, 2 escort carriers, 8 cruisers, 38 destroyers and destroyer escorts, 5 submarines, and 54 other auxiliary ships. While these are impressive numbers, the mine's contribution to either restricting ship traffic or assisting in ship sinkings is more difficult to quantify, like in this example. In October 1943, a B-24 dropped 3 mines in a harbor in Japanese-occupied Vietnam. A ship was sunk by one of these mines. A month later, a B-24 reseeded the harbor with another 3 mines. Another freighter was destroyed. 10 Japanese ships refused to enter the harbor until the mines were cleared. They diverted to the island of Hainan. While in transit to the diverted destination, they were attacked and 6 of the 10 ships were sunk. Another ship was sunk by a sea mine. The harbor was closed to steel ships for the rest of the war by the threat of the 3 remaining mines. The threat of the mines remaining was enough to close the port. These charts show the reduction in Japanese shipping mainly due to the B-29 mining campaign from a 1974 Operation Starvation document. This table represents the probable cause of the 52 U.S. submarines lost during World War II from the Naval History and Heritage Command website. Japanese mines sunk around 7.5 U.S. submarines out of the 52 lost, the second highest cause of losses next to ship attacks. Mines also sank 4 of the 26 ships lost during the Okinawan campaign from a 1945 capture of Okinawan summary document. Had there been no kamikaze fleet attacks, mines would have sunk more ships than all other sources combined. This page summarizes the overall Allied World War II mining campaign. The US and UK deployed some 300,000 sea mines. 2/3 were defensive. These sank virtually no ships but were deterrents. The remaining 100,000 offensive sea mines sank or damaged 1,700 ships. The B-29 Operation Starvation mining campaign cut off Japanese from its resources. A Japanese admiral speculated had the mining campaign started 3 months earlier, Japan may have surrendered prior to the atomic bomb attacks. This graphic compares the economics of submarine attacks with mine attacks from a 1973 Naval Ordnance document on mines against Japan. U.S. submarines sank 4.8 million tons of shipping, while mines sank 1.3 million tons. Economically, that's $100 of submarine investment per ton sunk versus $16 per aircraft per ton sunk. That makes sea mines deployed by aircraft 6 times more cost-effective than submarines. Prince Kanoe stated the aerial sinking of ships in the mining campaign was just as effective as the bombing attacks on Japanese industry. Other comments include, it was not the B-29 bombing that defeated Japan, it was the blockade that deprived us of goods. In the last months of the war, the portion of ships sunk were 1 by submarines, 6 by aerial bombs, and 12 by mines. Mining hastened the end of the war. The war would have been shortened had the mining campaign started earlier. Let's watch a Navy informational video on sea mines, which will tie the information from this presentation together.
This is sea mine warfare. Warfare where enemies seldom meet and battle is rarely joined. But where death and destruction always mark the field. Where the mighty fleets fight their battles, the little minecraft have already been to do their dull and deadly duty, for which there is no glory. Where the little ships go, there is only a most dangerous sea. Sea mines have been employed in naval warfare for more than 350 years. Until about 1880, they were known as torpedoes. Some 8 beer kegs filled with gunpowder brought about an historic reaction from Admiral Farragut when he said, "Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead." Farragut won the battles of Mobile Bay, but after the South had surrendered, he had to go in and sweep up their mines. Mines are usually classified by their position in the sea, either moored or bottom. But they are also referenced by their method of actuation, which can be contact with the ship or by the ship's influence in terms of sound, pressure, or magnetism. Simple contact mines were the basic weapon of mine warfare until World War II. A large explosive charge encased in a suitable container was moored to the seafloor by an anchor so that the mine was positioned beneath the surface some 10 or 20 feet. Several triggering horns protruded from the shell. If a passing ship made contact with one of these horns, the firing circuit was closed, and during World War I, the simple contact mine was joined by mines which could be set off from the shore by an electrical circuit. In World War II, still more treacherous mines were developed, types that would lie on the ocean floor and wait to be exploded by the noise of the ship, or by a reduction in water pressure caused by the ship's hull passing over, or by the effect of the ship's magnetic field as it intersects the mine's induction coil, or by combining any two or more of these triggering influences into a single mine. Magnetic influence mines were first developed by the British as early as 1917. Although it was not until the Germans commenced using aircraft to lay magnetic mines in British harbor entrances during 1939 that they became a real threat. Unlike the contact mine, magnetic mines do not have to be moored to an anchor, but can be sown freely to lie on the ocean floor. The Nazis made two mistakes when they began to use the magnetic mine in 1939. Instead of waiting until enough of them were ready so that all British ports could be mined at once, they dropped them in small numbers on only a few ports. The second mistake was inadvertent. A Luftwaffe pilot dropped one of the new magnetic mines on a mud bank of the Thames estuary instead of the harbor. The Royal Navy recovered it. Had larger quantities been available to permit widespread continuing use of the new mine, it might have permitted the Nazis to blockade this vital lifeline of England. The recovery of a single mine from the Thames estuary contributed greatly to Great Britain's success in countering the magnetic mine threat. To complicate matters even more, ship counters can be built into the firing circuit of nearly any type of mine. They can be preset to explode only after a given number of ships have passed. Thus, a minesweeper can sweep a channel a number of times, declare the channel swept, and still have a mine explode beneath the next passing ship. At the end of the war with Japan, the Pacific Fleet's mine forces had chalked up an impressive score. 50,000 mines had been laid. 1,054 enemy ships sunk.